I would just like to, re-welcome everybody. This is the Regina International Film Festival and Awards, and like she said, this is the first one. Over the next 2 days, there'll be 30 plus films appearing here that are both international, national, and local. I'm Andrew Perry, and this is...
I'm Amy Mantica, so I'll also be co-hosting with Andrew this weekend. And to kick things off this morning, we're going to start with a Q&A with some of the people that were involved with the student film Arrival of the Birds, which is going to be actually screening tonight. So on that note, we're going to get talking to the three of you guys, and after we do our Q&A with them, there'll be an opportunity for any of you in the audience to ask a question to them yourselves if you want. All right, so I guess we can get started. Do you guys want to just each introduce yourselves and tell us what your role was on the film?
For sure, yeah. I'm James Messer. I was the assistant director on Arrival of the Birds.
I'm Evan Ferraton, and I was the actor.
I am Meghan Waffle, and I was the other actor.
Let's talk a bit about the story. So just to give the audience an idea, this is a experimental film, and we were discussing earlier that we watched it and it seemed like it could be Evan, possibly a dream or a certain state you're in where you have this kind of experience. You see Meghan, there seems to be some sort of relationship there, and we've got a couple interesting things happening, so maybe I'll let you guys just elaborate on how you interpret the story.
The story, like you said, is very experimental. I guess I know I've talked to the director, and basically he describes it as two lovers. One, Meghan, suffers from depression, and she ultimately commits suicide. And Evan, in order to find her, he has to have a near-death experience in order to do that, and which puts him in this limbo-like state where he's able to interact with her for the last time.
It was a really dark film to try to shoot. So it's like, as actors, we have to try to get ourselves into a certain place to be able to feel that, to show the expression obviously on our faces and stuff. So, but overall, I thought that the film turned out pretty well, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah, it was definitely a new experience. I had never done a film at all before, so when I first met with Eduardo, he's like, "This is pretty in depth. Like, you need to be able to handle this, and there's a lot of different stuff you're gonna have to go through. So, like, can you do this?" I thought, well, I mean, last time I took acting was in high school, so it's about 4 years ago, so I could give it a shot. And he's like, well, I'm happy with that, and he really helped us get in that place. Like, when we had a darker scene, he really helped us get in the mood. Like, half the time we were alone by ourselves, like, pretty much just with our thoughts, trying to get in that feeling of, okay, this is what I need to portray, this is how I'm gonna do it. So he really helped us in that moment, and I thought it came out pretty well, so.
Yeah, so what was it like for you two to get into those roles of it being a very dark and serious film? What was it like for you two to get into that kind of mentality, or your character preparations at all?
For me, it was kind of hard. I mean, he met me and he's like, "You're a very happy-go-lucky person." I'm like, "I am." So he's like, "You're gonna have to be depressed. You commit suicide." I'm like, yeah, I do. It's gonna be great. So it's really kind of draw on past emotions. Even if you've never been in that situation, you kind of think about a time where, okay, this is when this situation could have happened, and you really get yourself in that feeling. And I know there was a situation where both of us had really intense scenes. I had one where I actually had to cry on camera, and that's the one Eduardo was the most worried about, because I don't do acting. So he's like, "Can you do this?" I'm like, "I'm gonna try." So I think we sat in the room for 45 minutes, in the dark, complete dark, just sitting there trying to get in that mood. And it was it was challenging, but we pulled it off, I would say.
Yeah, for preparation-wise, we mostly just try to, like she said, just get in your mindset, think of past experiences, even other films that you might have seen where somebody committed suicide. How was that person's family affected, their friends, everybody around them? Obviously, there's always somebody affected by somebody losing their life, especially with suicide. especially also with depression. A lot of people are unaware of depression these days, so that's another great thing I like about the film is we're trying to promote something that is starting to get a little bit more airways, and a little more people are becoming more aware of it. But otherwise, I find like music always helps me get more into a depressed style of state where I can try to pull off the character.
I just made sure no one talked to them while they're trying to get in character.
Yeah, James, why don't you tell the audience a bit about what the role of the assistant director is, or how you prepare?
Yeah, for sure. Basically, I just do all the technical stuff, so I make sure the actors are happy. I did the scheduling for the shoot, which I guess this is a testament how good I am at scheduling. It was supposed to be a 2-day shoot, and it turned into 4 or 5, so don't ask me to be your assistant director if you don't want to get done in 2 days. But land locations, that was another big one. Eduardo, which if you guys don't know, he was the director of the film. He was a Mexican exchange student. He's actually back home right now shooting films. He didn't have a vehicle or anything while he's here, so he came to me and he said, can you help me? I need to find a place. I need to find a field. I said, well, buddy, we got a whole province. That's a field here. So it won't be that hard. Just how big of a field do you want, and I'll find it. So we just kind of stuck with it together, and I handled the technical stuff, and I let Eduardo keep with the creative stuff, and then it helped that we had 2 really good actors. So.
Yeah, what was it like just like being on set here in Saskatchewan, especially with Eduardo, who was not from here? Like, what was that kind of like dynamic like here in Saskatchewan?
It was very cold. It was towards the end of winter, so there was still some snow, but things were melting, so it got really muddy real quick. We had wind the one day, which didn't help, and then it rained even the one day. I remember at one point where Evan and Meghan have a really emotional scene in the field where they're crouched down together. In that shot, we actually had like canopies, or we had like boards covering them so we could try to keep water from hitting the cameras and hitting them as well. And I'll admit it was kind of a mess, but we handled it very well, and it turned out great, I think.
So I guess, Evan and Meghan, do you guys want to talk a bit about your experiences on set? From a crew position, what was it like for the actors being on set? Tell us a bit more about that.
The set itself had a very lively crew, right? They were always joking around, having fun, laughing, everything like that. So it just kept it lively, especially since it was so cold out, rainy, wintry. Like at the one scene, I'm laying basically in the mud, in the water, stuff like that. So I'm freezing, and always had a gentleman come up and give me a blanket after and try to keep me warm and stuff. So that was always good. But I would not know how Eduardo handled it. Like being from Mexico, where it's always nice and hot, and then being like 2 degrees out in the rain. Yeah, but yet he was still running around, happy, loving life. So.
Did you guys tell him like you better get a winter jacket for this shoot, or how did he handle that?
We tried. I think he still just wore his leather jacket. No gloves, no tube, no nothing. Yeah, just dress shoes in the middle of the mud.
So then, Meghan, maybe you can elaborate on what it was like to be directed by Eduardo. What's that process like?
It was really different, but because obviously there's a little bit of a language barrier, but we all handled it really well, I would say. Like, if we didn't understand something, we're like, okay, Eduardo, calm down, back up, explain yourself. He's like, okay, and he's like, okay, so what's this word in English? We're like, this? He's like, oh, okay. So we both really learned from each other, and he's a fantastic director. He really is. It was a really happy-go-lucky set. So everyone's super happy. I think we sang Shakira a couple times because we were in the room.
They're not going to
in the dark
now, I guess.
Thinking, I heard you. So it was. We had a really great bunch. So even though it was super super cold, we couldn't feel our fingers half the time, I would say, but we still pushed through it. And it even though it was so cold, it really kept it upbeat, having a really great crew. And the director, he's fantastic. He really knows what we need. So he's like, okay, get in this mindset. This is what I want you to feel like. Are you okay? Do you need a blanket? Do you need a few more minutes to warm up? We're like, no, we got this, we're good. So he was really aware of what we needed, I would say, as actors, as well as the crew. He's making sure the crew's on point and that we were doing what we needed to and that we were feeling okay with what we were producing, I would say.
It sounds like yeah, like you guys had a really like positive set experience and everything like that with the crew and everything. Considering it's such a like a somber film, is that like the relationships that you guys developed through it seemed like they were great. So like, what was your guys' relationship like as the actors for the film, for it being such a like a dark and somber thing? Like, what was your experience together like?
I would say we had a good time. I don't know, we didn't know each other at first at all, so we were waiting for Eduardo at the U of R, and he kind of just like came up to me and was like, so are you here for this? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, I'm the other actor. I'm like, oh, hi. And we sat there talking for like 5 or 10 minutes, and Eduardo comes up. He's like, so you guys know each other? Like, I'm glad you're good. We're like, no, we met like 10 minutes ago, but like we got along really well, so it really helped develop the chemistry we needed for this, because other than like the process like we went through with Eduardo, like we had a couple meetings here and there, but we really didn't communicate that much outside of the script, but we didn't really need to, because we got along that well that we knew what we had to do, and we just kind of clicked and made it happen.
Okay, well, let's shift gears a bit then and talk about, so you get ready to be in the film, you go out, you shoot the film, and then the editing process starts, and I understand that somebody, not Eduardo, but someone else did put the film together. So when you finally did see the finished film, there's a really interesting soundscape. We hear some bird noises throughout the film. There's like a high-pitched ringing tone that's reoccurring. So do you guys want to just, elaborate for the audience a little bit on what these sort of sound effects mean and kind of the symbolism, it sounds like, that are behind them?
Well, throughout the film, there's like really high-pitched noise, and it always comes inside of my head. All right, so as I'm walking through the trees, a high-pitched noise will start coming. I'll grab my head because it's starting to hurt. And basically, all it's doing is starting to bring out the memories that I have with Melissa, sorry, is her name in the film. And so basically, like, to me, like, it was hard to try to emulate that sound. So actually, at one point, as a thing I was trying to do before, I sat there for about a half hour, I think, in my truck with headphones in with a high-pitched sound going through my head, so I would be able to at least know what it is or know what it feels like to have that high-pitched sound going through my head. But yeah, that high-pitched sound can be very piercing in the film, but also it try to make the audience more aware of what's going on and how emotional I'm starting to get, because I'm bringing up happy memories of her, but then also the dark side of it.
Yeah, I'd say the sound design is one of the most powerful parts of the film, especially it being an experimental film. They use, there's music, there's the diegetic noise of Evan, of course, of the ringing from the memories. And then there's also the bird noises as well. Lots of, I guess what I was surprised was a lot of student films, the big struggle is sound. And the recording crew did a very good job of capturing audio and things like that, and then the post-production guys as well did an awesome job with the sound design, so I was happy with it.
Just quickly to conclude the soundscape, so with the title Arrival of the Birds, and we hear a reoccurring bird noise throughout the theme, you guys had sort of explained that Eduardo had a really nice symbolism and a meaning behind that. Can someone sort of tell us a little bit about that?
Well, basically, it's saying that, like, throughout one part of the film, there's a bird flying away, and what he's trying to say is that that's just freedom of the world, right? And one thing with depression is that you always feel like you're trapped, right? So Meghan, in her character, she was always feeling like she's trapped, and no matter how much I tried to make her happy and stuff like that, the only way she felt that she could get sort of release from being trapped is by opening the cage door, committing suicide, right? And some people may not understand that feeling or understand why that goes through somebody's head, but it's just how it was going and how she felt about it at the time.
It's definitely like a very powerful topic, especially because it's just starting to get a lot of like airwaves, as you had said before. So it's such a great thing to see, something come out into starting to talk about, mental health issues and whatnot. It's a really good thing. So like, what was your guys' interpretation of like the final product, or like how did you feel about it after not being able to see it after shooting it and everything like that, and then finally seeing what the final was like?
It was very surprising. I mean, like, we did go through about maybe 4 days of shooting, and like some of the stuff we did shoot didn't make it in there, which to me, like, I've never done film before, so I was like, oh, that's a big part take out. He's like, well, you know what? You guys really pulled it off in this one scene, and I felt that it didn't need to be there. So like seeing the final product it was pretty awesome. Like we accomplished this. Like we went through the cold. It was cold. It was really cold. The wind, there was like overcast at one point, and then like 20 minutes later there'd be sunshine. And we're like, well, crap, that wasn't in the shot before, so we're gonna figure this out. But finally, like seeing after everything we went through, all like everything I had to do to prepare for this, it was really cool to see everything finally come together.
I guess from my point of view, seeing it technically being shot from each day, I was I guess I wasn't surprised, but my eyes were open when we got the final edit. Like I didn't realize that was the film that I was working on until I really looked at it and said, okay, like I remember shooting that. But like I remember just before going into that, like Evan, and I'll be joking around about something, or someone is joking around with someone. So we were all very uplifting and good moods, but then the scene was very powerful and very emotional, which was quite surprising to see how well it actually came off. So
just like with how joyful and upbeat the set was, to see the final cut and how depressing it was and emotional the film was, it just, like while you're on set, you don't realize how it's going to be until final editing, right? So, but the way I ended up watching the film was I turned off all the lights, it was just dark, right? To help set the mood a little bit, right? And I felt that helped a lot with being able to encapsulate the emotional part of the film.
So I guess the director of this film, Eduardo, wasn't able to make it today to the Q&A. So let's hear a little bit about him and maybe the relationship that you guys were able to have with him throughout making this film.
Well, he's a very, very passionate man. So when he has something set in his mind, that's the way it's going to go, right? And he's willing to massage out the kinks and stuff that come with it, but he'll explain it to how he wants it, and he'll help you get to that point. So as Meghan was saying, like we'd be joyful, jumping around, having fun, singing Shakira, trying to dance, he'll come up to us and just kind of talk to us alone, like, she's walking away from you, she's leaving you, she's dying, you don't understand, you don't know why she's doing this, you're getting upset about this. No matter what you do or what you try to do, she just won't come back. So like get in the mindset of that, right? And so when you're on one end of the spectrum and then you try to get to the other end of the spectrum, he's just able to basically guide us to get to that point.
Yeah, like I agree with Evan. Eduardo's very passionate and he knows exactly what he wants. And that's one of the first things when he came to me to ask me to be his assistant director was, you got to be there to tell me when to stop, because he would shoot the same scene all day if he could until it was absolutely perfect. That he's like such a perfectionist. So I was basically the voice of reason, giving him a time to do it. And he's pretty incredible actually. It was good to work with him. He's still a good friend. So
Yeah, he is. Actually, I'm still friends with him. I talk to him on the regular. It's really great seeing how he's doing because he is such a nice, good person. And he really worked one-on-one with us to really make sure we knew what we needed. He knew what we needed.
Do you know if you would continue doing like film acting at all, considering like this was your first time doing it? Do you know if you would continue to do it out?
I definitely thought about it because I'm like, well, if I have to go through that cold again, I don't know if I'll make it. Like, that was bad. But I did do a short film recently. It was a part of the 48-hour movie making challenge for the Saskatoon Film Festival. They're also playing it tomorrow, I believe, around 4 p.m. And it was not like this. It was very sporadic. Like, he literally found me like 3 days before he was doing this and like, okay, so I don't know what this is yet, and I don't know anything about this, but do you want to do it? And I'm like, maybe. I mean, like my last film, Eduardo contacted me like a month before and was like trying to figure out every single detail. And I'm like, okay, sure. So I'm getting there. I'm like, what do you want me to wear? He's like, oh, it's whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm like, Eduardo was like, I want this color. I want this color. Don't mix up them. Like, get this. Like, wear black. I'm like, is this so different? But it was definitely a fun experience. I think I'd like to get into it a little bit more. And I know Evan's all up in that acting business and seems to really enjoy it. So I think I might pursue it a little bit more. I mean, I'm still in school right now, so it's kind of hard, and I do modeling on the side, so those are kind of my main focuses. But if I can get in some acting, I will definitely do it.
So Evan, why don't you tell us a little bit about, is there any upcoming projects for you that you're acting in, or what you want to do?
I'm scheduled to shoot a film. It's called Lights of St. Louis. I don't know if you guys know, there's a town called St. Louis, Saskatchewan, about a whole myth of a train coming through, a gentleman getting decapitated. Now the train tracks are no longer there, but they still see these lights of where the train was, or the gentleman that was walking on the tracks with a lantern. So it's kind of like a film about that. It should be next year, actually in December. Another cold time. But yeah, other than that, just I just came back from TIFF, so made some contacts out there, some people who want to use me and stuff in their films, so continue contact with them and hopefully start growing.
Nice. And then James, what's next for you? You're currently a fourth-year student, right?
Yeah,
at the
I'm a
university?
film student at the U of R, yep. I do a little bit of acting, but not quite as much as Evan.
Maybe you'll be in Eduardo's
Yeah.
next film.
Yeah. But no, we just got our fourth year final films picked out. I will be doing camera op for that, so I kind of do a little bit of everything. I kind of enjoy all the aspects of films.
Cool. So like with it going out to Toronto and whatnot, and the film being shot here and now being screened tonight at 4 o'clock, is there any other places that the film is premiering?
Yeah, is what we heard, Miami. You're going to have it in Miami. I don't know if it's a film festival exactly, but I guess it's going to be screening in Miami sometime soon or this weekend or something. We don't know the specifics, but it will be there. So
It sounds good nonetheless, right? That it's going to be screening in another country. So on that note, I think that concludes our Q&A time with you guys. So thank you so much for talking with us. On that note, we'll see you guys soon.